You are now listening to the Minority Trailblazer podcast. Let the story begin.
One time for the lovers, 2 times for the ladies, 3 times for the brothers, 4 times for the babies. Do you love her? 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 1 time for the lovers, 2 times for the ladies, 3 times for the brothers, 4 times for the babies. Do you love her? 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 Brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. Brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. She my brown skin, love her brown skin, love her brown. She my brown skin, love her brown skin. Hold me down.
Welcome to the Minority Trailblazer podcast, and I'm your host, Greg Eel, the Culture Change Agent. It is season 4, first episode. It's like 5:30 in the morning. I've been finishing up the edits. I am so excited, blessed, and you don't understand how on fire I am right now. So hopefully if you're listening to when you're driving to work, if you're on the metro, wherever you are in the world, Africa, Australia, UK, wherever you are, New York City, Chicago, Houston, yo, New York, I am pumped, yo. Like, it's season 4. I told you I was going to do it probably early September, but I just could not wait any longer because I was like, yo, hold up. I can't let a whole month go by without getting this thing started, because I know it's been like 5 weeks outside of the Korean podcast, man. So I'm excited to be back. I got a lot of housekeeping things I want to share. And matter of fact, let me share these housekeeping things real quick before I get into my early intro rant. And then I jump into when I tell you this is one of the best shows I've ever done, hands down. Like, drop the mic, hands down. Anybody can benefit from you, but I know you will. I know you will. And you know it's almost close to 2 hours. And if you got a college student, if you have a family, a student that's coming from an urban environment, wherever they're coming from, make sure you share this to a parent, share this to him, because I tell you, this show will be phenomenal. But housekeeping things first. First. We got Minority Trailblazer merch. We got the hoodies. We got the t-shirt. We got the V-necks for the ladies. And I'm excited to showcase that. So you can go to minoritytrailblazer.com to go ahead and cop your merch. So once you do, send me a shout out and I got something special for you. So make sure you go cop that merch. Second, Minority Trailblazer Conference is live and direct. And guess what? For listening to this podcast, you get $50 off early bird admission over the next 2 weeks. Yep, 2 weeks. And here's what you do. You go to mtbconf.com. Let me say it again. mtbconf.com and use promo code MTPodcast. MT is capitalized. Podcast to get $50 off. And yo, I tell you, this conference is going to be jam-packed with phenomenal speakers, phenomenal energy, phenomenal setup. It's going to be in Durham, North Carolina at the Convention Center. I can't wait. March 9th and 10th. That's a Friday and a Saturday in 2018. So I am pumped up. You will hear way more information as we go forward. I haven't went public with it, but I just had to debut this thing on the podcast. And last, but certainly not least, thank you so much. And I say this from the bottom of my heart, man. We just wrapped up the Minority Trailblazer first ever tour. And when I tell you the feedback, the people I met on the road in Houston, Atlanta, D.C., not Chicago, Charlotte, New York, and in my hometown, Durham, and the A, I can't forget the A. Man, we had over like 400 attendees. And every single stop, we had so many actionable takeaways. And I have so much content, I don't know how I'm going to share it with everybody. But I'm just so blessed and honored that you paid your hard-earned money to come. And not only did you come, you added value. It wasn't like we were just sitting there listening to me talk. Like, I hope that like you share with your friends, because we had the live podcast. We had the small group session before that. After that, we had the PSA segment where I had speakers come in and share their stories. Then we had the Four Corners and Network. And I mean, so many dynamic individual stories, meeting people that pulled up on me in the Maserati, meeting people that like run companies that are world worth over $1 million and they're black owned. Like, just to see so many stories of success, so many stories of like going through, persevering, and everything else. And man, y'all made a dream come true. Like, this is just an idea. And they pack out 6 different venues in states that I never even been to Houston before. And I have so much love. And I mean, I'm just so grateful. And I can't wait to go back on the road. And we're going to be doing it every single summer. I'm going to be bringing the Minority Trailblazer live series to corporate America and to colleges during the fall and the spring and select cities. So if you're at a college, let's set it up. Greg@gregehill.com. Let's set it up. Guess what? Also, since I'm on a roll and I'm excited, we at Harvard University October 4th. Boom! We at Harvard University October 4th, and I just can't wait, man. Like, this is just an honor and an opportunity, because guess what? I got denied from a lot of this is your message right here. This is when I go into my way. I got denied from a lot of business schools. I didn't take the application process seriously, and I said, yo, at the end of the day, it ain't in my calling. And we just went all in the podcast and the speaking, the things that just transformed and grew. But it is crazy, crazy, crazy and surreal to be able in such a small time, not small time, it's 13 years in the making, to be at Harvard University talking to a group of CEOs in the Innovation Lab. Shout out to Joanna Smith and the team for hoping and creating this vision, creating this drive. And it's the power of being one connection away. I did one podcast and I gave it every single podcast I get on, regardless of who I'm interviewing. I don't care if I'm interviewing somebody that's like high profile or low profile. I give it every single thing I got, because like I said in Kareem Taylor's podcast, every opportunity is the opportunity. And what does that look like? That looks like Harvard University. That looks like we're going to international locations like UK, South Africa. People are like, yo, you ain't even like a celebrity. You're not even big time yet. Like, how are you doing these things? First, it's not me, it's God. But second, it's being one connection away. And when I do get that opportunity, whether it's small or big, killing it, dominating it, treating it like it's my only opportunity. And side note, I wasn't always this way. I'm not even going to preach like I was always this way, but I made a decided decision last couple years ago that anytime I got on a mic, anytime I got on the stage, anytime I was in connection with somebody else, I would say, yo, it's my time. I'm the star of the show. Actions, let's get it. Let's eat. Let's dominate. And yo, you one connection away right now. Whoever you are, wherever you're listening, I guarantee you're one connection away right now. But guess what? When you get to that connection, here's the kicker. Two things. One, add value. Add outrageous value. More value than you ever can. Like, under promise and add value. And the second thing, once you add that value, once you get to the spot, you gotta do one thing and one thing only. What is that one thing, Mr. Hill? You gotta ask for what you want. A lot of people don't. My first part of my speaking career, I got paid literally nothing. And I gave my heart, gave my blood, gave my tears. And I would go to these schools for free sometimes. $50 to 3-hour sessions, doing so much. And then go, and my gas tank below E. I can't eat. I'm struggling. I'm living in cars. This after I'm motivating, pumping up people. Because guess what? They said, what's your price? Is there a budget? Nah, I'm good. It's for the community. All this stuff. I didn't ask for what I wanted. I know I at least needed gas. I know I just needed this. So guess what? Now when you ask me for, like, what's your price? Oh, I got that thing. You're going to have to sign some big checks, right? I got that thing. Like, if you say, okay, what can you do with this? Okay, here's the budget. Here's this. And even if there's no budget, okay, here's how we can align to get sponsorships. Here's how we can do this. Like, I asked for what I want. So hopefully that was something to provide you, because this podcast, like I said before, is going to be life-changing. I got one more personal plug before I get into the intro. Last personal plug. We are in the midst of getting sponsorships for the Minority Trailblazer Conference. So if you work for a corporate company, if you have your own company, we have our sponsorship packages ready. We're trying to get our first on the books within the next week or so. And then the goal is 100K. So let's get it, Greg@gregehill.com. And let's make it happen. So, to set the text, set the tone for this show, man, like his journey. Let me get a couple snippets before I get into his intro. The man saw his father, I believe at like 7 years old, for 30 minutes. His father's committed a lot of crimes, murdered some people, gang affiliated, one time his whole life. From Compton, California. Raised in the hood. And the show, he described the hood vividly, like what it looks like. Then you go to Temple. He dominated Temple. Dominated Temple. Then went to Wall Street. Dominated Wall Street and also made a lot of connections. Did his thing with the humble, unique, and joyful spirit. And now he has a full ride tuition included at Dartmouth University, one of the top schools in the world for business. And his ambition, and he's going to do it, I believe, is to be a global CEO of a company in the next 10, 20 years. And I know he can do it. And this interview, when I tell you, I literally came to tears. I laughed so hard and I took so much notes. I listened to it again and wrote pages and pages of notes because it's that important. It's that deep. So when I jump into this intro, do not take this episode lightly. We going to a whole nother level this season 4. I believe this last 69 episodes, my interviewing skills have gotten better. It's just everything is coming together. And I'm excited to introduce season 4 with my brother. So let me read his intro and let's get into the show. On this show, we interview young, successful minorities in a variety of fields to educate, empower, and inspire our current and future generation leaders. And you know we got a show for you today. We are season 4, 3 seasons in the books. And I am so glad, so happy, so overjoyed to bring one of my brothers onto the podcast. And I know he has a story, but more so he got some practical strategies and tips for those that are looking to get into business school. Those looking into getting a high finance, and just in general, those are looking to live a fuller, maxed out life. So I'm gonna read a snippet of a bio because I got a book. Because that's by season 4, all your podcast guests have a lot coming with them. Like season 1, my bios are a couple sentences because I was just starting off. I got a couple. Now I got the big meaties of the world. So when this brother become a billionaire or own a part of a team, he can just remember the little people that had him on the podcast a couple years back. So let me jump into the bio. He is currently an MBA candidate at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth, where he's a consortium fellow and has earned a full tuition merit-based scholarship. And those of you that are looking to get into business school and that have looked at the prices of the top business schools of the world, you know that's a couple $100,000 saved. So don't sleep on that. Prior to school, he was an investment professional at Blackrock within the defined contribution businesses, partnering closely with corporate and public institutions to develop a comprehensive suite of investment solutions that address the retirement needs of their employees. And he began his career as a lead portfolio analytics advisor to BlackRock's global multi-asset strategic businesses. He's also an ardent champion of youth development in low-income communities. He has served as a mentor, coach, and co-chair of the Mentor Leadership Council for America Needs You, an organization that fights for economic mobility of first-generation college students, and as a junior board member for Children of Promise, an organization that supports children of incarcerated parents. Intensely focused on self-improvement, he was a 2014 Fellow of New Leaders Council, a politically progressive training organization, and sat on the advisory board for their New York City chapter. He was also a 2016 fellow in the Council of Urban Professionals and organizations that empowers, mobilizes, and connects diverse professionals. In 2016, he received the Professional and Community Achievement Award from World of Money for global contributions. Originally from the inner city of Compton, California, he earned his BBA from Temple University with honors, scholar distinction, and an international business and finance, specializing in Spanish and Latin American studies. At graduation, he delivered the commencement address to the audience of over 10,000 people. A former Benjamin A. Gilman International Scholar as well, he has a deep passion for traveling and immersing himself in different cultures. Hence, he has traveled to over 25 countries, city-states across 5 different continents. So I know that was a media introduction. We're going to break down the finance piece. I'm excited to bring this brother on the show. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my brother, my dog, Darryn Lee, to the Minority Trailblazer podcast. Welcome to the show.
How you doing, Greg?
Hey, man, we on it, man. We excited, man. Let's get it.
I love the energy. Love the passion, man.
Yo, people would be like, are these guys drinking at a happy hour, at 5, 6 p.m. in New York, and we at 8 a.m. on Eastern Standard Time on a freaking Wednesday?
You got to bring that energy every day, everything that you do, man. So I love it.
Everything. I was on the podcast, on last podcast, the one with freaking, who was it? What's his name? Oh, my dog, my brother, Kareem Taylor. And I told him, I was like, yo, every single opportunity is your opportunity.
Exactly. Never let an opportunity go to waste.
Never, man. Like, there's no small conversations. There's no small podcast interviews. Every single one is your last. Cause you guess what? I always talk about it on my YouTube. I'm gonna stay right here before we begin. The power of one. When I say the power of one, and I want you to speak on it too after I kind of get my standard thing, because you never know who that one person who listens is, right? Mm-hmm. One person who you views is. And sometimes we look for big numbers and all this other stuff, but it's if that one important person is like, yo, that's I love that part. I like that host. Or, oh, shoot, that's Darryn. Oh, shoot. I mean, I listen to a story and shoot, I got a position at this hedge fund whenever he graduates. Like if that one person. But a lot of times we get lost in these thousands and don't care about that one. And it's just like, I don't know, that concept of one and really embellishing and really holding true every single moment sometimes get lost in your chase to your dreams.
Man, that is so real. And I think another thing that you hit on there is that I think a lot of people just don't realize how small this world is, because that one person that's listening to you could be connected to you by second or third degree via LinkedIn or whatever the case may be. And then you realize that, man, you guys actually have something in common. You guys actually have a touch point, whether it's the school that you went to, the neighborhood you grew up in, or whatever the case may be. I think a lot of people just get lost in the masses in terms of, oh, man, there's 300 million people in the United States, 7 billion people in the world. There's no way I'm going to be able to connect with a lot of different people. But I mean, to your point, you get on that podcast, you inspire somebody. Next thing you know, they know somebody that knows you, or know somebody that knows you, and there you go. And now you got a quasi warm introduction to this person.
Case in point, I'll release this by the time of the podcast going to be live. I have an opportunity in October to speak at Harvard University, right? So
okay,
it's pretty big. But I appreciate that, brother. And that all started because when I interviewed Dr. Stephen Alsop, man, a fraternity brother of mine, graduated from North Carolina Central, then got his PhD at MIT. Now he's in residency at Harvard. I took it seriously. Of course, I take everything seriously, but we had a great discussion, great engagement. We put it online. And then somebody from Harvard was like, oh, snap, man. Like, I love the interview. What do you do? That connection developed. And now I have an opportunity to speak at one of the most prestigious universities in the world. Mind you. So all that from a guy, I ain't deeper than that many people. And a lot of people have podcasts. A lot of people have a story, but we were able to connect those dots. And what I want to do before we jump into the podcast, I'm going to get a quote from you, but I really want this whole podcast where we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about your come up, your grind. We're going to talk about your middle stages with finance, and then talk about your next journey in this business school, because people that just listening to the podcast, they're going to be like, oh, snap. Okay. Tuck, Dartmouth, full ride, honors, commencement. I'm like, who is this guy? Like, who is his parents? Like, come on, man. Like, it's like, it sounds good. Blackrock. And for those that are not in the finance space, Blackrock is one of the premier financial institutions in the world. So it's going to be like, all right, cool. And what's his story? And so I really want you to bring some life to it and bring some depth to your grind. But before we get there, can you please give us a quote or a motto that you stand by, and giving us a story of how you apply that to everyday life?
Yeah, and I think from a quote perspective, when I first heard Jack Nicholson say that in one of his roles, but a lot of people say this, it's, I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me. And for me, that really speaks to, I grew up in a troubling environment, and if I didn't have the support of a overbearing mother, I guess, for lack of a better term, I could have easily went down the wrong path. Or if I would have listened to a lot of the friends that I hung out with, I could have easily went down the wrong path. But the idea of this quote is that you don't let your environment shape you, you shape the environment, right? And I think you can apply that to anything, whether it's the environment that you grew up in, whether it's the company you run in, whether it's the company that you keep. And when you think about it, is that you have control over what you surround yourself around. You have control over your community. And I think that's important, because at the end of the day, your community is what shapes you, and your community is what helps you accomplish what you want to accomplish. To do that, I need to shape a community around me to be able to push this mission forward, so I can have the impact, or we can collectively have the impact that we want to have in the world.
I love that. So we're going to stay right there, man. We're going to stay right there, because I want you to share with our audience, and take as long as you want. This is a conversation without peace, but take us from growing up and
hmm
Compton and your circumstances and first what led you to Temple. So like take us through that whole
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah. So it was an interesting experience. So I would say my time in California, spent 18 years collectively in California. It was broken up into two parts. So I would say in Compton, California,
Hmm.
spent my formative years there till I was 10 years old, and then we moved to the east side of Long Beach. So in Compton, California, my upbringing there, single parent, and sadly enough, it's one of the common stories within the black community. But my biological dad was in and out of jail my entire life.
Mm.
So he suffered from not just drug abuse, but he suffered from violence. He's murdered people. My dad actually was a gangbanger, and so were my half siblings. I had two half brothers and a half sister that I never met. All three of them gang banged as well.
Wow.
So my relationship with my biological dad was non-existent or very limited. I met my dad once when I was 7 years old for 30 minutes. And I think what's interesting about that experience is that at the time, as a 7-year old, I called him dad, right? I called daddy. That's what you do. you call the person daddy. But in hindsight, I'm like, man, he didn't even deserve that title. And you'll realize that I never referred to him as father. I always referred to him as dad, because in my mind, you need to earn a father right. Anybody can be a dad, but not everybody can be a father. Is how I see it. So I grew up with a very, very strict mother. My mother has been through so much, and I didn't appreciate it growing up. But I have so much love and respect for my mother, because not only did she have to deal with my father's drug abuse and gang violence, but he was also abusive, and that was a consistent. I mean, verbally and physically, and that was a consistent story that I saw throughout my upbringing
Wow.
with my biological dad, but also other boyfriends that my mother had. So really, it was like her and I against the world when we think about it, coming up in Compton. And in Compton, I lived in a blood neighborhood. So I lived over on Golden Street, right near the swap meet, near Luders Park. And Luders Park is where all the Bloods hung out at.
Hmm.
And so I went to elementary school there. Now I was a bad kid. I was just on a bad path, Greg. Like I was always getting into trouble. I was just
For real, that's crazy.
into trouble and everything. But when I look back at it, it's because I had so much hatred in my heart, man, to be quite honest. You know, you growing up without a dad, everybody else got a dad, or everybody else got some some constant male role model in their family. And for me, I didn't have that really. Most of the people in my family are female and the men I'm with. So that was my time in Compton, California. It's very troubling. And then we ended up moving to east side of Long Beach. And now, just to give you some perspective, so we went from the hood of Compton to the hood of Long Beach.
Mm.
And so the east side of Long Beach is actually where Snoop and Nate Dogg grew up at, over in that part of Long Beach. And so that experience was interesting for me, because we moved in so late. I had to go to a different high
Hmm.
school. Not different high school, a different elementary school. So I had to go to this elementary school that was predominantly white. It was still in a school district where it was predominantly white, public school.
Hmm.
And that was interesting because that was my first experience with racism,
Oh wow.
right? That was my first interaction in fourth grade with racism. And now I'm in a situation where people are saying, hey, you can't wear this, that, and the third. But I'm like, hold on, why can't I wear this Raiders jacket when the white boy Brian over there is wearing, a Skulls and Bones jacket or shirt or whatever the case may be?
Hmm.
And then that's really when it starts shaping in my mind that, oh, damn, okay, one, I'm getting a perspective of how other people live, for one. For two, I'm getting a better perspective of how I'm viewed as a black male in society. But then three, I can look back at my current situation and realize that it's not optimal. And that was
Mm.
an interesting, because that was when my mother's first husband, and that didn't end up well, because once again he was abusive, and so that didn't end up well. And it was interesting because then when I went to middle school, I will never forget my fifth grade teacher, Miss Schuster. She told me, and what you'll hear as I go through this story, you'll hear that there's been like this one person in my life
Hmm.
that has kind of steered me in a certain direction, right?
Hmm.
So in fifth grade, it was Miss Schuster who said, you should go to this middle school, right? And then I went to that middle school and ended up having an awesome time and just killing it. Had a 3.7 GPA in middle school, and then I
They got
was president.
GPAs in middle school, bro.
I had GPAs in middle school, bro.
That was
Right?
deep.
Right. And I was president of my middle school. And then what I realized, so I was having this success at school, and the success was stemming from the fact that I was in an environment where I'm like, okay, I'm not comfortable in this environment, to be quite
Mhm.
honest. And not even comfortable. It's the fact that I'm not this what I'm doing what I'm doing. If I do everything that my friends on the block are doing, it's not gonna happen. In middle school, we were living in the projects in Long Beach, predominantly Crip neighborhoods. So now I'm moving from a blood neighborhood in Compton to a Crip neighborhood in Long Beach, and so that had its own issues, right? Because I'm used to wearing certain colors, and we living in the projects, and everybody's running up on me. It was like, what's bracking and being sarcastic and all this other stuff. So I had to change my whole flow and things like that. But in middle school, that was an interesting experience because I was able to see that, you know what, I need to better my situation. That's when I started really becoming ambitious because I'm like, man, we eating the same shit every damn day. My mama going through these abusive situations. We ain't got no damn money.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like that shit that stuff motivates you. I don't know if I'm cursing, but like that stuff motivates you. And so when I thought about it, in middle school, I had a teacher once again in 8th grade. I had a teacher pull me to the side and say, "Hey, I think you got a lot of talent. You should apply to the California Academy of Mathematics and Science." Now it's high school, and now high school, Greg. To be honest, high school was probably the single most transformative experience.
All right, break it down. Break it down. Yep.
Because high school was a period of time where things were a little bit better at home. My mom was in a loving relationship now. He's my stepfather to this day, which is great. But at the same time, I was still battling this. I was still living in two worlds. So at home, at high school, my high school was one of the top high schools in the country. We were ranked 21st in the country out of 18,500 plus schools. So highly regarded public magnet school, with the sole focus of taking minorities and putting them into STEM-based fields. So, man, the opportunities that I received in high school were vast. We were going to NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory every year. We had 15-year-olds interning with Boeing, et cetera. And a lot of us came from lower income backgrounds. So it was just an awesome experience. But at the same time, that's when I first started seeing black people with money outside of the Cosby Show on TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I started actually I had friends who were part of Jack and Jill. And I'm just like, man, what the hell is this Jack and Jill? And I'm like learning about all of this stuff. And I'm seeing how things move. But at the same time, I'm just like, okay, now I'm in an environment where I'm being pushed. Right, where I'm around blacks, I'm around Asians, I'm around a lot of just non-whites, a lot of minorities, and being challenged to really further myself. And everybody here wants to take over the world. They want to be the first black woman to do this, the first Asian to do that, and so. But at the same time, so you got those ambitious people, but some of those people come from money, some of those people don't, and I was one of the people, of course, that don't. So at the same time, I had that experience, but then when I went home. Very different story. You go back to a Crip neighborhood. I can't tell them I go to this math and science school. So I was lying. I was like, oh, I go to Carson High. Like I go to Carson High.
Before social media, so they couldn't really find out, really.
Exactly. Before social media, they couldn't find out at all. So and after I did that because I think it's an issue that a lot of us in our community struggle with, and I think it's something that we need to do a better job collectively as a community. Is that why do we ostracize people that want to do well in school, that want to get good grades, that want to be a CEO or a business owner or whatever the case may be? We only really support people that want to be athletes and rappers, and I think that's just something in our community that we collectively need to get better at. But by me wearing those two different jackets, for me, it amplified what I didn't want. Right, what I didn't want in my life. And going through high school, I've changed mentally so much because of the experience. It was the hardest 4 years of my life so far academically. Like it was so much harder than college, easily. And I changed so much, but I've realized more and more. I say, you know what, like this is gonna get me out the hood. This is gonna improve my socioeconomic condition and allow me to assist my mom when needs be. Because we still living in the projects, eating chicken 5-6 days a week, because that's all we can afford. Not because we choose to, but that's all we can afford. And, with food stamps and things like that. And I'm just like, okay, let me continue focusing on this. I never really gravitated towards the sports stuff. I love sports and things like that, but we didn't have a lot of athletes in my family, so it's not like I was doing that.
Yeah,
it was in the blood, right? So I was like, okay, I'm not going to be Kobe Bryant or whatever the case may be, although I love Kobe. So let me focus on this academic piece, and it started coming a bit more bit more natural to me, and I appreciated it. I appreciate the grind. I appreciated the idea of using my mind to create something, right, and to really help shape, have a broader impact. Because in my mind, not everybody can be a star athlete.
Yeah.
Most people don't make it, right? But if somebody becomes a star engineer, they can impact thousands.
Yeah.
Right? They can impact thousands in the community. Right. So it's like, let me go ahead and continue on that path and do that. And like I said, those 4 years in high school were very transformative. I had my first international experiences there. I was doing business competitions in high school, statewide competitions, coming in second and third place, sometimes first place in capital market competitions with the Federal Reserve. Like, man,
Wow.
it was an eye-opening experience, to be quite honest.
That's phenomenal, bro. And I want to, before we go to the college and to professional, I got 3 questions. First question is, can you, and you don't got to get too deep, but can you break down that dynamic mentally, though, having a father that, by some accounts, like you said, was a felon, was a murderer, and how to this day do you deal with those type of things, mostly because, I mean, shoot, you're a role model to so many on what you do professionally, and I know you've impacted so many kids' lives and whatnot, but still, when you go home at the end of the day, when you talk to your girlfriend, when you talk to Mom Dukes, I know it got to be in your back of your head, like, dang, bro, like, this still is like, is he alive? Do you keep in contact, or what is that like?
Man, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's hard to deal with it. I would say I'm much better at it, if I'm being really honest. I'm much better at dealing with it now. I would say high school and college, it became even more difficult to deal with the fact that I didn't have a dad, right? It's because, I mean, to be quite honest, man, I remember there are times in college where there was just so much going on and things going on in my life. And then, like, you always got those moments. And at the same time, my mom and I weren't that close. So it's like, damn, like, what family can you go to? You know what I'm saying? Like, who can you go to just be like, man, I have this situation. How do I do this? Whether it's school related, whether it's female related, whatever the case may be. And in moments like that, you wish, as well, at least I did, you wish you had a male figure that you really loved, that was your blood, that I could go to. And because I didn't. So that just reiterated me, like, damn, I have a dad who's just not around. On a contact piece, man, when I say I met him one time at 7 years old for 30 minutes, that's literally the only time I physically seen him. After that, it was letters back and forth, because he was always in and out of jail. So it was letters back and forth. But that's just what it was in terms of my physical interaction. It was just that one time when I was 7 years old. And like I said, dealing with that is tough, but I've gotten much better at it. And I think, I don't know if this is good or bad, but I'm at a state of mind right now where I'm focusing on strengthening the relationship that I have with my mother, because when I look in hindsight, I mean, she shielded me from, she wasn't a mother per se. She was a father. You know what I mean? The way my mother talked to me was probably the way that a hardcore dude would be talking to his son. Right? Like, I didn't see the stereotypical, I didn't see the stereotypical emotional side of a female from a mother perspective until like college, high school, college. So that's when her and our relationship started developing, and I started appreciating it more. So, to be quite frank, I'm focused on deepening the relationship I have with my mom, and I don't even worry about my dad anymore. And my mom's like, I didn't have a dad. I got a great stepfather right now, and I got an awesome mother, but I didn't have a dad. And so I just kind of do that. Do I want to see him? I don't care. To be quite honest, I really don't care. I think for me, it's like, he did what he was supposed to do, and this is the hand I was dealt, but at the same time, I was dealt an awesome mother, right? And I grew up with people who had cracked out father, cracked out dad, aunties doing this, uncles doing that, grandma barely holding on. You know what I mean? So it's like, so when I think about it, it's like, man, at the same time, I need to be blessed even for the strong mother that I had, because I had some friends who didn't have that. So
yeah, that's real, man. And thank you for being so honest and sharing that, man. So second question, I think we talked about this in the hood, and even myself, because I came up East Durham, And it wasn't the nicest place, but I had some single parent households, but we had some old apartments, but we never lived in the hood, but we never were like middle class. Like I was in the weird, I don't know, I was in the weird zone until my dad came through and he moved us to the middle class thing. But I want to break it down for our audience that come from different perspectives on what is it like really living in the hood. I mean, especially in Inglewood, Compton. So briefly, could you share with us kind of day to day? Like? Yeah, what's it like? Because we never like a lot of times in society we never flesh it out. People say, "Oh, I'm from the hood, from the hood."
Yeah.
If you're not from the hood, you like okay, I get you, but you don't really. So if you could like flesh it out, especially every hood is different, but flesh it out what it was like in Compton.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up that question because that is true. I feel like I think people when they think of the hood, a lot of people that don't grow up in the hood, they see NWA or
they see rap. They see rap music,
and they just like, man, okay, that's what it is.
40s, people tussling dice on the block. That's what I think. Right. Even I'm black, and I grew up around it.
What's the haps on the craps? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right,
ain't nothing but a gangster party. That's all you hear.
Yeah, that's all you see is this glamorized view. And I mean, I think a lot of people don't really understand, and they think they understand, but a lot of people don't understand the mental state. So to your question in terms of what was it like day to day, I would say this. I would say my experience in Compton was different than my experience in Long Beach. Mm-hmm. My experience in Compton and Blood neighborhood, I tended to have better relationships with a lot of the people growing up. And it's funny because a lot of people are just like, I mean, but you were in elementary school. What are you talking about? And a lot of people don't realize is that, kids are exposed to a lot of things at a young age, especially when your parents are always working and, all you watching TV all the time by yourself or you talking to people and all this other stuff. Like we're exposed to a lot of things. So by kindergarten to third grade, I felt like I grew mentally very fast. Right, in terms of just by nature of being in the hood, I'm already kindergarten. You already talking about sex. You may not have a fleshed out idea of what it is, but you kindergarten, 6 years old, you already talking about sex. Right, I already got friends who they understood drugs, right, because their mama's cracked out, right, and then everybody making fun of each other and things like that. So like that was the experience. Also, to give you some perspective on my mom's experience in Compton, right. So my mom was working 2 jobs. Right. Mm-hmm. So I remember we have to wake up at 4:00 in the morning. So just so she can get me to the daycare center, which she was able to get subsidized babysitter through the county because we were on the county at that time. So I had to get there by 6:30 so she can go ahead and catch the bus and make it to work. My mom used to carry a knife, a big ass knife in her bag, in her purse, because she's out early in the morning by herself. Right. And so there's times where people that ran up on her, and then we had to call the babysitter come through with a bat,
wow,
just to make sure that nobody's kind of running up on her. But that was like the day-to-day situation. It was hard. Like I definitely remember a lot of struggle, like a lot of struggle in Compton, California. But what made it good was that I was more of a popular kid on campus. Mm-hmm. So that kind of in my mind balanced it out because I had some good friends and everything. Mm-hmm. Now moving to Long Beach was different because I remember when I moved to Long Beach, man, I was like, yo, these foods are harder than the cats. I was like, I remember that, yo. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe I was just more aware of that aspect. But I was like, yo, these cats are not playing. Like, so when we lived in Compton, I remember the dudes. I mean, that's when I had my first drink in Long Beach. Rather, when we moved to Long Beach, I had my first drink because just the crew we were hanging out with. I'm like, man, I'm like sixth grade, man, and like. At my middle school, the middle school was ran by gangs. My middle school was ran by gangs. And because I wasn't trying to get down with that, of course, I got pointed out as like, oh, okay. So this dude is this, that, and the third. I got bullied, to be quite frank, in middle school. So that was interesting because I got into a lot of fights. In middle school. The thing is, in middle school in Long Beach, the blacks and Mexicans always had issue, and even the Asians there's always a lot of tension with each other, right? So at my middle school, the blacks and Asians and Mexicans were always fighting, like always. So the popular Mexican gangs, you got East Side Longos. They were a popular gang. I forget the name of the Asian gangs, but then on the black side, you had Rolling 20 Crip, and then you had Insanes, and you had YBs, and it's like, So the thing is that you have all these gangs on the middle school campus. So I'm like, this is sixth grade, bro. Sixth grade, Greg.
Wow.
Cats out here gang banging hardcore. And there was one time where I even thought I wanted to get down with a tagging group, right? Not even really gaming, just tagging. I think a lot of it ties back to what I was saying earlier in terms of not having a male role model to set that direction, not feeling like I was included in anything, not feeling like I have certain family support. A lot of my cousins had already moved away to Louisiana. You know what I mean? So I didn't have a lot of that support anymore. And I remember I was gonna get down. My name was gonna be Kicks. That was gonna be my name, and I thought I was doing Kicks. It was like Kikks, but you capitalize the I, but then put the lowercase dot above the I. Like it was, it was bad. Yo, it was bad. But I realized I was like, man, I can't get down with this. And another influential person in my life at that time was my stepbrother. My stepbrother, he went to Poly High. Poly High is renowned for its football team and track team, and he was a lineman. He was a lineman, and he was real cool with all the gangbangers in our projects. And so he shielded me a little bit. Like he always told him, like, yo, my brother doesn't get down like that. No, don't mess with my brother, right? And my brother was, 6 foot, 300 pounds, right?
Oh,
so
yeah, yeah.
He was a towering figure. And so when a lot of the gangbangers saw me, they were just like, oh, okay, you big Will brother. You big Will brother. Okay, that's cool. You big Will brother. So they really didn't mess with me. They knew I wasn't going to bang with them like in the project. But it's crazy to see some of the stuff that happened. So like to your question in terms of day to day, right, I had that overarching theme. But I remember because there were because of the overarching theme, because there were a lot of tension between blacks and Hispanics, I would never go to the corner store by myself. Like literally, I would, like, I'm talking about to go 2 blocks to the corner store. I remember always hitting my friend Earl or one of my other friends, or hit up one of the gangbangers that I knew, especially one guy named Tech. You hitting him up and it's like, yo, Tech, roll me to the store real quick. All right, cool. And it's just not even a question. Like most people be like, damn, you going to the store to get some chips, get like one of them quarter waters or something like that, quarter juicies, right? But nah, it was a situation where I was legit fearful that some Mexican was going to kill me. And all of us in the black community on the east side of Long Beach were like that because Mexicans will always come out. We want X number of black people dead. They'll always send the cops. The cops will always be on every high school campus and middle school campus, right, on Cinco de Mayo.
Wow.
Because the Cinco de Mayo, Mexicans always come up with, we killing X number of blacks, boom, boom, boom. We were trying to wipe out all blacks. So we would mob to the store just to get some water.
Wow.
And so that was the day-to-day experience, though. And then every now and then you see somebody get on. So I saw a cat get put on to this game, got his whole jaw broke, right? And that's just like, so you seeing that experience as well. And it was just like, and that project that we lived in was just an eclectic mix of just a lot of different things. So when I think about a lot of stuff that's shown on TV about the hood, a lot of it is accurate. Some of it is glamorized for effect. But I think what's important is just the mental state that people are in. I think it's very easy to be surrounded by so much violence, so much drugs, and things like that, and you just lose hope. So I struggled with it growing up. I wasn't even perfect on this track. I lost a lot of hope, to be quite honest, at certain points. Like, man, maybe I'm not meant to get out this hood. Maybe I'm meant to stay in these projects, right? And it's hard to lose hope, but it's just hard to stay focused on certain things. But I was just very fortunate enough to be still surrounded by certain people that forced me into that mindset.
But how did you? Yeah, that's huge. But what was it your lifeguards? Like I call them lifeguards, the people that helped you out. Like how did you have hope? Like what made you different?
Yeah. So I think it's funny because I think that question, like what made you different, is when I think about a lot of the friends that I grew up with. There were some friends that were legit. They should have been out of the hood too. You know what I mean? They should have got out. We should have got out together. But I knew some cats that died, right? I knew some cats that did the wrong things, ended up getting a 6-year bid at county and all of that stuff. But I think what I was fortunate enough to have was I had a strong-willed mother, right? And then my mom's baby sister, my auntie, she was a teacher, and she ain't play no games either. So every Christmas she'd be like, you gotta get 2 books. You gotta get 2 books in the and then one thing else that's like a game or something, but you always have to get 2 books, right? And you got to read them and then talk to her about them. So she instilled little things like that. At the same time, man, high school, late middle school, high school, I found out that I had a distant uncle that lived in Vegas, right? So I found that he was married into the family, white dude, right? Married into the family. And so I started connecting with him. And man, he used to fly me out every summer to his house in Vegas.
Wow.
And just say, he's like, this is kind of what it is. And I used to talk to him. I'm like, Uncle, wow, what do you do? Because I'm out here, I'm seeing big ass houses. I'm like, hold on, you a drug dealer? Like, what you doing out here, y'all? Oh, and then he was like, nah. He was one of the first employees at Intel. So he and I developed a really strong relationship. And Greg, he was a large part of the reason of why I got out the hood. Like, because I saw it. You know what I mean? I saw it. He was married to my aunt. My great aunt. These are older people that I met him when he was like 60-some years old. I'm just like, I saw what he was able to do. He had a successful corporate career, and now he has like all of this stuff. And whenever moms needed money, because I had to pay for the bus to go to that high school, moms couldn't afford the $400 a semester. I call up Uncle Al. Uncle Al be like, well, I got to send him money. You know what I mean? Just like no questions asked. And flying me out, taking me on trips, taking me hiking, taking me kayaking, doing all the stuff that I just don't get, right? So I would go spend some time with him and then come back to the hood. And then it's like, man, but I know that there's something else out there. You know what I mean? Like, this is beyond Cosby Show, whatever, where everything's so fictionalized. But now I can actually touch it. I can touch something that's out there. And that, I think, I was extremely blessed to have him in my life, because a lot of my friends in the hood didn't have that. They didn't have a distant relative that would step in and help them. You know what I mean? So it's just like one of these things where, because I saw that, I knew there was more. If I didn't see that, I don't think I would have been able to overcome a lot of that self-doubt.
Yeah, man, you don't know how much you're blessing me. You're going to bless the listeners. And I can't wait to share this with a lot of high school listeners too, man, because especially once we get to your professional point of your career and people like this,
right.
like this, all this that is, I just can't wait to release this, man, because I know, especially my LinkedIn fam, I got a little good market copy. They're going to listen to him like, hold up, man. Like, because sometimes especially people of color as well, not just white people, we whitewash. We paint with a broad brush students that, well, we would quote troubled students. We would say, oh man, y'all go through this, whatever, but you made it so vivid. And I think that's needed, because sometimes we don't really get what really goes on there. And I think like every hood, but we just, okay, oh man, they just gotta, your mom's work hard, you maybe never see my mom. No. I'm talking about these kids that at 5, like I said, that are seeing their moms coked out, that are seeing heroin, that are seeing people die, that have to walk 2 blocks. Like, I'm glad that you made that drawn reality, because I mean, even myself, even hearing that, I'm be real, almost teared up a little bit, because I mean, it's just no, seriously, bro, like because I mean, I see what you do now, and just thinking, because I never even had to go through that, and I mean, because I'm a teacher, I taught last year, and not to say Durham Hood's the same as Compton, because they're not. However, a lot of kids at young ages see things that not even some of us adults have seen. I've never seen nobody even do cocaine or heroin or anything of that nature. Right. So to see it 6 years old and see how that will warp you mentally. So do you really think that kid is going to come to your class and be like first row with it?
Well, see, and that's the thing. That's one of my biggest things about the educational system in the United States. I mean, there's a structural issue in terms of how it's funded. That's a whole separate question. But then there's a separate topic. But then there's a thing with how we actually teach people. To your point, you trying to teach people math, science, all of this stuff at an early age. He just saw his mom overdose or coked out, or some of them's moms are prostituting, or or some of them were abused. Like, it's just like, there's so much going on, especially in the hood. There's so much going on, because some people, all 3 of them things happen to them. Right. So it's like, there's so much going on. How can you adequately say that, you know what, it's their fault for why they're not learning? No, we need to change our structure and need to address a lot of the societal issues and a lot of the trauma that the kids go through, because it's hard. Like, I remember, like, there's times where I was in class, there's no way I could be focused on this test or whatever, because my stepdad beat my mom ass last night. You know what I'm saying? Like, and now I need to go to class the next day. You know what I'm saying? So like shit like that, stuff like that, it gets in your head. But like a lot of people in the hood were dealing with that, and it's just like, yeah, they're not worried about some standardized tests.
Yeah,
because we haven't even addressed the trauma that they're going through and currently go through.
man.
You know?
Wow, that's a lot, man. That's a lot, and I still want to, because I mean, this is just a blessing, but I do want to ask one question, another question before we move to college and professional.
Yeah.
How at the high school you went to, what would you say were the key principles that allowed them to take inner city kids and have them achieve on such a high level during high school? Because they had multiple internships during high school. What was in the water that allowed that to happen?
Well, so I think the first thing that was in the water for the high school is that they took people that were in similar situations as me, and mentally, in that we were people, a lot of us that grew up in the hood, we were people that already kind of realized we wanted to get out. And so to get into my high school, you had to interview, you had to present a math or science project. So you had to interview to get in, but then they also interviewed your parents. So they interviewed my stepfather and my mother, and they put them through an interview process and asked them questions and things like that. And you got interviewed by two people. I got interviewed by a senior person at the college that the high school was located, and a ninth grade English teacher. And so there are people that are already on the path mentally where it was, I want to get out the hood. So all of us, and mind you, there was a mix of people. There are some of us from the hood at that school, but there are a lot of people from money who were at that school. You know what I mean? Okay. So it was one of these things where, especially like a lot of the Asians and the Middle Eastern folks, a lot of them came from money. And so it was a situation where, you know, we were already mentally focused on getting out. So when we got there, we just threw our all into the process. And the process was so rigorous at the school because the school focused on work ethic. The school ideally focused on, like, the goal of the 4 years is to get you ready to succeed at a top engineering program. Like that's the focus. And so, I mean, I remember ninth grade, man, like ninth grade kicked my butt. Kicked my butt, man. And it was a situation where it was just like, at the end of ninth grade, I was just like, one, I don't want to do engineering anymore. But two, I was able to explore because the school had a lot of resource, and I was able to explore business and explore finance. And that's how actually I was able to get interested in finance is in 10th grade, doing all these competitions and learning about it. I'm like, hold on, this is good. Because engineering is like, yeah, you can impact people, but I'm like, a business, you can make money. Like, you can make money. And now granted, if I would have knew how the world was going to turn out 10, 15 years later, whereas like you got engineers coming out of undergrad now making like $180K.
Oh, easy.
Right?
Houston, bro, give me a bag. What? Take the what and lead the what?
Exactly. I would have took a different approach if I could have saw the future. But what I did was I said, you know what? I'm gonna stick with the curriculum, but I'm not gonna go above and beyond in the engineering aspect. I went above and beyond in the business aspect. So that was an international policy aspect. But I didn't get involved in like our robotics competition, right? And my high school had a renowned robotics group, and we took national championships every year. Like it was just, or making sure I get that internship with Boeing at 15 years old, right? You know what I mean? Like I didn't go above and beyond in that aspect, but you know, in hindsight, I probably should have. Nonetheless, still had an awesome experience, and the school was very supportive. That's the thing too. The school was very supportive, and because the school was so small, you got that benefit of that student teacher relationship and that faculty focus. And that's what a lot of schools in like the Long Beach School District and LA Unified School District don't have, right? You got thousands of people at the school, for one. For two, since there's a lot of gang and violence at the school, everybody got metal detectors and stuff like that. They don't use lockers anymore, things like that. So it's like you treat these people like prisoners.
Yeah.
People feel like they're walking into a prison 5 days a week. And so my school didn't have that. We had 146 people in my graduating class. And so it was very fortunate. But on that high school piece, and then actually going into college before we get into that phase, Like I just didn't know which college I wanted to go to. I just knew I kind of had to do it, right? I just heard, like, I talked to my uncle, oh, this is kind of what you do. But I was just like, man, like, what school should I go to? I mean, I was already actively involved with our Black Student Union. And so, of course, I applied to Howard and decided differently later. We'll talk about that. But at the time, I was like, let me go ask my counselor. And again, it's that privilege you don't realize in the moment. But once you better understand the broader educational system in this country, being able to walk into my counselor and have a one-on-one conversation with him with no appointment scheduled, you know what I mean? Just like, that's beneficial. And I said, hey, he's like, what are you interested in? I said, look, I want to do international business. I want to take over the world. You know what I mean? Just like, that's what, start having those grandiose plans. Business, finance, money. I speak Spanish. My mom, everybody in Southern California speaks Spanish. I'm like, I speak Spanish, right? I kind of do some international stuff. I had this international experience in high school. It was an interesting experience. Like, I want to do more of that. I want to travel, do all of that stuff, and then just get out the hood, right? And he was like, you should look at Temple.
Wow. I
was like, what? Right. Just like that. Like, the meeting lasted 5 minutes. I was like, he's like, you should look at Temple. I was like, whoa. I was like, what is Temple? Then I was like, oh, yeah, Bill Cosby went to Temple, right? So you see that Temple T in the Cosby Show, right? He always had the Temple T in the living room. So I was like, oh, man, okay, Bill Cosby went to Temple. Man, I started doing research. Temple's international business program was top 10 in the country, 7th in the country. And I was like, oh, well, that's what I'm going to apply. Yeah, man. But that all of those ingredients collectively at the high school those are the type of things that got people to thrive. Because a lot of us, you didn't feel like somebody actually truly cares about your development, right? A lot of it's the people. Like, who truly cares about your development? We didn't take standard algebra, geometry, trigonometry. We never took math classes that would help you on an SAT. Which is crazy. So people had to, like, get separate SAT courses and things like that. But I didn't have the money to do that. So I went in and took the SAT without studying code. But, like, a lot of us didn't take traditional classes because we took case study based math classes because that was what we did. I didn't take a traditional, quote unquote, traditional math class until senior year of college when we had to take AP calculus. But freshman or junior year of college, yeah.
Hey, they threw you in the AP calc? Good God.
And of course, that's the thing. Everybody there has to take AP Calc, right? Everybody has to take AP English, government history, all that stuff. Take those AP exams. California high school exit exams, we had to take that in 10th grade. Most people got till 12th. Like, it was just like those type of things. You know what I mean? It's like, man.
That's crazy.
I can go on forever and ever on, like, how that school changed me, man.
But I love it because, and that's why I just love the format of the podcast, because of course we have tactical and practical stuff, but I think you highlighted on it with the high school stuff. At the end of the day, you can know every business strategy in the world, you can know every hack, every tip, but if your mind is not right, if your mind is not constructed in a way to kind of see things from a holistic standpoint, none of that stuff matters. Like, I see people all the time, yo, Greg, how do you become a speaker? People probably reach out to you, hey, yo, how'd I get on Blackrock? How'd I get on finance? You can tell them every resume hack. You can tell them every interview hack. You can tell them all this other stuff. But if they have not, in their mind, conceptualized, okay, how I'm going to add value to this company? Should I really be at this company? Like, and they understand their own self, then none of the stuff that you give them even matters. And plus, you can get it all online. And I think, and it came to me in my head, like, you got to prepare your mind before you prepare to grind.
Yeah, you got to have the mindset down. Because the mind is everything.
Because everybody's grinding, but everybody ain't winning.
Yeah, and right. I think a lot of people. I think to your point, a lot of people kind of mentally say, you know what? I want to be successful. I want to be a millionaire. I want to work at this. I want to go to this school or whatever the case may be. But I don't know if a lot of people understand the work behind it. Like, I think we always get a mindset around, being black or being a minority, being a part of just a marginalized community. You got to work twice or 3 times as hard. And I think that's knowable to people. But I think what a lot of people don't realize, and we don't do a good enough job at this just in general, is that we have people think that the end all be all is to have a strong work ethic, work hard, and all of that good jazz. But that's just the baseline. Right, that the baseline that you're gonna kill it in school, or the baseline that you're gonna do a good job. Like, what matters is creating certain relationships to expose you to the right people,
Yep.
so you can move up, and that's what it takes, right? If you look at a lot of people grow up, especially a lot of white people, a lot of people that come from affluent backgrounds, they grow up with dinner table conversations in terms of, you need to network, you need to build this relationship, you need to do this, that, and the third. And when you realize, like, none of us grew up with that, or at least me, a lot of us didn't grow up with that. And so we got to create that. We got to create our own dinner table conversations, getting involved with certain networks around the city, professional development networks, or whatever the case may be. And I think a lot of people don't put enough effort into that, because you got to keep that going, right? You got to keep that ambition up. And a lot of people don't put enough work into that to see different things, to see how people move, right? How does Greg move? How does Darryn move? How does Ben move? How does whoever move? And just really crowdsource, you know what I mean? Like
I love that.
ideas, crowdsource ideas and crowdsource approaches on how you go about and actually tackling problems. Like, that's what matters. That's what matters. Because everybody just assumes you got good grades and good job and all that stuff. So if everybody assume that, then that's not going to differentiate you. Like, that's what people got to realize.
I love it. And like, even beforehand, like, you about to go to Cali just to talk to some contacts. Like, for some people, be like, hold up, you about to do? I mean, are you going to vacation and take pictures? Okay, you do that, but it's like it's positioning, it's massaging, and that stuff comes over time. And I want to say, I think you hit on something real essential. And the baseline, like, the grind is the baseline. It's so real, because I was at a YouTube video. I was watching Rick Ross, and P Diddy, like a couple years ago, and they said something so deep, and I was like, yo, he said, yo, we had to work so hard just to be average. Like, people don't understand how much work it takes just to be average. And you want to be good, you want to be great, you want to be phenomenal or something. Like, you want to be elite, millionaires, like, change the world. Like, it takes so much to be average. Like, imagine, look at your life right now, right? So I know you have grander goals, but just even look at your baseline as just working at Blackrock, right? Say you're working at Blackrock.
Right.
It's probably a mind-numbing amount of hours in positioning and strategy and failures and yes and no's just to get to that point before Tuck. Right?
Yeah.
But some people look at that and be like, yo, like, okay, that's like this light work. No, it just takes so much, man. Like,
right, exactly. And I think what a lot of people have to tell people is that, first of all, Temple wasn't even a core school for Blackrock. So Blackrock wasn't showing up on campus. So what I did was, when I was interning at AIG in New York, I left work early one day, popped up at Blackrock at an event that I heard about from a friend, showed up uninvited, unregistered. Said, how you doing? My name is Darryn. I go to Temple and I'm currently at AIG. I want to get in here. And then they were just like, let us think about it. And then they ended up letting me in. And then I leveraged that to the best of my ability. And I took all the cards I could, kept in contact with them. They told me they were going to be at Penn 6 months later. I skipped my accounting class, right, to go to that event, right? Things like that. It's like, what do you prioritize? In my mind, I'm like, look, I'm going to get a good enough GPA, right? But at the end of the day, even if I had a 3.9, that doesn't mean I'm going to get into Blackrock. Even if I had a 2.5, doesn't mean I'm not going to get into Blackrock. You know what I mean? It's just like, I think there's a lot of people don't realize, like, because of that hustle, because I was able to network with them and set up a super day the day before I flew out to Spain for my study abroad at Temple. And then they called me when I was in Spain, like, yo, you got the offer. And it's because I developed relationships with them. Like, when I graduated school, I knew people with sub 3.0 GPAs that had jobs, and I knew people with 4.0s, summa cum laudes, all that, no job. Because it's about the mental state. It's the grind. It's the grind, man. It's the grind. And yes, the education is important and things like that. Like I said, as mentioned earlier, that's the baseline. But people that have that grind, they can get away with the sub 3.0, because at the end of the day, man, that's what business is. That's what business is at the end of the day. No one cares. Like, at the end of the day, people care about your grit. They care about your grit. They care about you making them money. They care about you making them money and actually having an impact and adding value. There's a lot of 3.9 GPA people who can't add value. Right. And that's nothing against them. But I'm just saying, like, you got to change your mindset around these things. You got to get good grades. Right. But understand that that's the minimum. Like, I think a lot of people don't understand, like, that is the minimum. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, man. Ooh, stay there. So, we're gonna jump right into college, and we're gonna we're gonna be brief on this so we can hit the professional point. But
okay.
I would, because normally I would skip college, but I think the reason why I wanted to definitely talk on college for you, because even in MLT, and I love the MLT program, because MLT, people like yourself, people like Quentin, people like Dorian, people, I mean, there's so many black women that are killing it too, so I'll be remiss to just mention all these men, but, that have like just changed my whole perception on what it really is to like just be creative and just do stuff. And you stood out from always, like when I first met you and just seeing your resume, cause I think you had some resume workshop where I looked at my resume, cause at A&T, I was like one of the top dogs. I said, oh, my resume's sweet. I had GE on that thing, Johnson. Man, I saw your resume one time. I said, what the fuck? It was like,
come on, man.
No, it was like 2 pages. I was like, bro, we only juniors in college. Like, what, how many jobs does man have? Like, I see international this, that. I'm like, bro, what in the world? So I said, I cannot skip your college segment, because I think you just so much moving and shaking. So if you could tell your story, but in a way where there's 3 key takeaways, and I know that's on the spot, but you're a speaker, so it's cool. 3 key takeaways on how you were able to freaking max out in college, bro. Because I know there's the college kids listening to this, there's some parents listening to this, and I just want them to kind of get in the sauces of doing that. So please brag on yourself. This is the time to brag.
Okay, so how did I maximize college? Okay. So I think there were a couple of different things. So because of the training that I had in high school, and because I was able to get involved in certain networks, I already came into college understanding the power of relationships, right? So the power of relationships and the power of having a structured plan. And so there's a couple of different things. A lot of people get involved with like the MLTs and things like that, and those are great programs. I would even challenge people to seek out those type of programs earlier on, especially for a lot of high school students that may be listening. I was fortunate enough to get involved with certain business programs through high school before I got into college. So I was involved with UCLA Reardon Scholars Program in 12th grade, the Academy of Business Leadership in 10th grade. And then I was a part of this scholarship organization called South Central Scholars, right? That really took a lot of people from the hood with similar backgrounds as I, and really gave us a small scholarship, and really gave us some resourcing, right? Gave us resourcing to really help us maximize college. So for instance, because I was able to get into the scholarship program for those in the hood, the mentor that I was assigned, Alex Rubacava, which is a great mentor who was very influential in my life. He ran his own hedge fund at that point in time, and he graduated Harvard undergrad.
Your mentor ran his own hedge fund?
Yes. My mentor, 18 years old, ran his own hedge fund. He graduated. He went to the Brent.
Can you explain what a hedge fund is? Because I know some non-finance people real quick.
No, definitely. So a hedge fund is essentially an investment firm, and they just use different strategies, right? They use different investment tactics to maximize return, or to generate an outsized return for their investors. Is the simplest way to say it.
Yep.
And they can long or short it, which means bet on a company growing or bet on a company failing. And so this dude, right, Mexican background, went to Brentwood private school, Harvard undergrad, ran his own hedge fund, and now I'm actually seeing him this week. He runs his own VC firm. But so this dude grew up with the resourcing. You know what I mean? He grew up. I'm 18 years old. I'm in a scholarship program, and he's assigned my mentor.
Wow.
So he and I having conversations at the summer camp. He's like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "Man, international business, more investments, all this other stuff." I was like, "Man, I've been reading. Everybody said I should do investment banking." He's like, "You know what banking is?" I said, "No." I was like, "I'm 18. I just been reading. Like, people been saying I should do this investment banking thing." And then he was like, "Don't do investment banking." He was just like, "This ain't the 80s. You ain't got to do that no more." So I was okay. He's like, "You should look at asset management." Right? He's like, "Continue to get good grades." And so freshman year at Temple was, from a grade perspective, was easy for me because I told you my high school kicked my butt. Let me tell you, I graduated my high school with a 3.0 GPA, and I was considered honors.
Wow. It was real in the field. That's why all GPAs ain't the same. Because
Exactly.
I ain't gonna touch it. I ain't gonna put it. I see some public school 4.0s, and I'm like, whoa, what? You send them to the forest. They ain't coming out.
And all GPAs are not the same, bro. Not the same. So anyway, so from a school perspective, I was still able to party, have a good time, and still get my work done freshman year. So I was like, okay, cool. Let me focus on the internship thing. Because I had him as my mentor, he was like, yo, you should look at investments. You should work at a hedge fund. I was like, the hell's a hedge fund? I didn't know about it. He got me an internship with his friend, right? And it's the power relationships, right? Power relationships. Got me an internship with his friend. I had an interview process. In hindsight, the interview was kind of light. I had an interview process. Freshman summer, right after completing freshman year, I was doing research at a hedge fund. So I'm 19 years old, interning at a hedge fund for 12 weeks. Back home in LA. Now, granted, never had a car, didn't have a car, couldn't afford it, right? So stayed with my mom's for the summer. But I was catching a train and 2 buses every day to that internship, 2.5 hours each way. That's 5 hours round trip of traveling on top of an 8-hour day. Right? And I did that for 12 weeks. So now I'm coming back on campus, right? You and I met sophomore year. I come back sophomore year, I already had an industry-related internship because of the connection through South Central Scholars, in addition to all my other extracurricular activities on campus and things like that, and then my grades. Got into the honors program, did all of that stuff, right? So now that the power relationships is a consistent theme that I see, but at the same time, I started thinking on the other piece too is the other key takeaway for college is have a structured approach to what you want to get out of college. And I'm thinking about this now too with regards to business school, but in college, the good thing about Temple is that they made everybody flesh out all their classes for 4 years. So you had to, with a little bit of flexibility, right? They had some things because people were just like, yeah, if you want to be a business major, engineering major, they tell you don't have to decide your major to the junior year. But let's be real, you need to decide that now, or you're gonna be here 5, 6, 7 years, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of wanted to do that. So I already just doing mad research. I was just doing a lot of research because, mind you, I'm already in the research mode from my high school. So I'm already, and because of all these developmental experiences that I've had, I already knew kind of how to, exactly, the power relationships, but how to work the ecosystem.
Because that research, man, you have relationships plus research. You have relationships and no research, then you know how to leverage. But yeah, the research piece, oof.
Right. Exactly. And because, like, for instance, because I got into the business honors program, now I was able to apply to an internship at AIG, which I ended up getting, right? Or because I'm in an honors program and I came in with a structured approach, now I was able to research the international business piece of Temple. Because I was like, look, I'm coming here because y'all 7th in the country. Yeah. Like, what? Y'all must got some really good resources then for international business stuff, man. And a lot of people don't do this. It's crazy. A lot of people say, oh, I don't want to do the research. I don't want to do this, that, and the third, or there's no money out there. Man, Temple sent me abroad for free so many times. Like, literally, they sent me to China for a 10-day business conference. I had to write a report on that, and that's how I was able to graduate with honor scholar distinction. Or I did volunteer activities in Peru and Costa Rica. Or I was doing all of this other stuff. Or there were international opportunities where I was able to go abroad to Spain for 4.5 months for a semester. And some people say, man, study abroad, that's expensive. Study abroad was the only semester that I have fully paid for by grant money.
Wow.
Grant and scholarship money. Why? Because I was a black male studying abroad. And a lot of people don't realize that black people don't study abroad relative to other ethnic groups, but black men study abroad less so than black women. So if you're a black man, you get every scholarship you apply to. That's how I got the Benjamin Gilman Scholarship with the U.S. State Department, John T. Pettis, and all these other scholarships, where I had a surplus in funding, right, for that semester. So I was able to use that excess cash and travel around Europe and Northern Africa.
That's
so right. So it's like leverage. It's like having that structured approach at the beginning allows you to do that, because what I realized is that a lot of people weren't asking these questions. So I'm the only person showing up to faculty like, where the money at? And they're like, oh, boom, we got this grant over here that we never talk about. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got this grant over here that we never talk about. Write some essays for this. Cool. Well, the essay came back. Oh, okay, cool. This is what you're going to do. I found a program that was already structured, things like that. Oh, you just need help for it? Okay, boom. Here's $3,000. Go to China. You know what I mean? It's just like you gotta kind of like work that ecosystem and do that. And that's what I was doing throughout all of college. That's what I was doing throughout all of college. And by the end of college, I traveled to over 10 countries. I mean, I got that grant that I got for honor scholar extension. I was the first undergrad in the school's history to get it because it was usually only given to grad students. Like, man, it was just an awesome time at Temple. There are a lot of different things, and because you work in a network, right? You work in a network. There's other things that you can do on a social aspect. I had great friendships. I was homecoming king one year, which was hard because that's a 30,000 person school. So I had to convince like 50,000. But like because of those working in networks, having a structured approach, right, and understanding the impact that you wanted to leave on Temple's campus, or on campus. Those three things for me allowed me to maximize school because I have no regrets. Academically, I had a great time. Socially, I have friends that are going to last a lifetime. Friends through on campus, but even through MLT with you and through other groups that I was in. And then impact in terms of things that I did with our investment association and becoming a founding leader in that and being a commencement speaker and like all of these different things and getting all these awards, like the highest awards ever given to by the student affairs groups, like all these different things culminating in terms of here are the three things that I want to accomplish. I had finance internships every summer since freshman year, and I left with a job. And it's just like now I've crafted this narrative where it's like, you know what? Here's the blueprint. Hopefully I can inspire some other people in this. But now let's move on to the next phase. Let me continue using this model and let's move to the next phase.
Man, you put the bow on the end. And I want to highlight two things. I want to make sure people did not miss it because I know we were speaking from a college perspective, but I think that aspect can be applied to everything in life about being intentional. Because I know, I mean, so many people that working in corporate, I hate my job with all this other stuff. No, don't say that just yet. Because, your job has so many untapped resources as far as people. How many cats listen to this podcast? You think right now, have you asked your manager to do personal development? Like all these conferences that you want to go to, bro, especially if you work at the top, one of the like these consulting firms or even every firm, even when I worked at Duke as a financial management analyst, they were like, yo, we got 15,000 in budget and we never use it each year for P&D. Like y'all don't use it. And that could be, you could be just going anything. But if you have your research, you're like, okay, here's a conference I wanted to. And you can strategically use it to fund your, I guess, your passion, whatever, to do that. And I think the biggest thing, another big thing I took out of that is there's no use of having a network if you're not working that network.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's all about working it to, in my mind, working it to have a positive impact. At the end of the day, I just want to have a positive impact in whatever I do. I want to help others. That's my thing. And it's funny that you bring up the corporate piece and the untapped resourcing because that's a huge thing. A lot of people weren't putting in the work and the time to get a lot of scholarship funding, right? It was a situation where it was, okay, let me fill out this grant at my firm. Let me fill out this grant. Let me apply for the $5,000 scholarship or whatever the case may be. And that's cool. But realize that you want to have a meaningful impact. So with American Needs You, the organization I was in, organization that helps first generation college students, because I am one myself and because the mission really, really hit home with me. My thing was I said, you know what? We got this grant thing. Okay, that's cool. You gave us one of these grants, but let's take it up another level. Who do we got to talk to that is senior in HR or whatever group for us to actually make some real connectivity, right? To actually how do we get Blackrock to be a formal partner of America Needs You and contribute annually, contribute their monetary value on an annual basis, but at the same time, not just money, right? How do we get people to give their time? How do you get people to give their energy and their resourcing, career panels, interview prep, whatever the case may be? How do we get these Black and Hispanic children, or these first generation college students, ready to compete at the level that they need to compete at for these internships at Blackrock? And you ask those questions, I connected internally with the right people, and now we have an awesome relationship. Or Blackrock has an awesome relationship with America Needs You. America Needs You gave Blackrock the Game Changer Award in 2014 and this year, 2017. So like we were able to make significant strides, and now we've also, with some combined with some other initiatives, now we've significantly increased the number of Black and Hispanics in Blackrock summer internship program. When I started there were I was one of two Black people in the internship program. Now it's significant. Now we talking 20, 30+% of the internship class, right? Black and Hispanics. And that's increasing. You know what I mean? Because we got the right stakeholders to buy in, because we got the right nonprofit to partner with, because they on top of their things. They doing what they need to do, right? And it's just like, it's a beautiful movement. to be quite honest, because it's like now we're significantly changing the face of the firm, but also other areas of asset management and giving opportunities to people who that's all you need. You just need exposure. You need exposure to the right people. No, just because you're from the hood or not doesn't mean you're less smart or more smart. It doesn't matter. You just need exposure.
Yep.
You need exposure. And you need to know how to navigate whatever exposure is given to you. And that's it. And that's what we're doing. We're giving kids exposure.
Yeah, son. So to jump right in this thing on the same flow, how are you able to maximize and get the most out of your career at Blackrock, man?
Yeah. So Blackrock was a great experience for me, to be quite honest. It was wasn't perfect, but I think I took a lot away from it. And yeah, I think this is a constant theme. It's constantly tying back to the network and the supporters. And so I was very fortunate enough to have a managing director as my boss, who's from South Central LA, Darryn Magnus. And he, was one of the few Black managing directors. And for those who don't know, the managing director is essentially the highest level you can get to before you hit the C-suite at Blackrock. And he's one of the few Black managing directors at Blackrock. And he just really just took me under his wings. I think him being from South Central LA and me being from Compton, we connected on that, right? And we just connected. And him, along with other people, just continue to just be my support system, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But by the time I started at Blackrock at 22, I've already been networking for so long that I just realized that, boom, I need to continue doing this, right? And I was able to not only work on the desk, because when I first started, I was doing like 100 hours a week on the desk. But at the same time, you got to make time to go to the networking events, right? You got to make time to go to the networking events. You got to make time to meet with certain people. You got to make time to keep up those contacts and develop those relationships. And so that's how I was able to really maximize a lot of time at Blackrock. Because of those relationships that I had with a lot of people at the firm, I was able to get on good projects. I was able to get a lot of good opportunity. A lot of people helped me figure out kind of which group to move to, how to move, who to connect with. And these are Black and white people. It wasn't just Black people. So it was just like I developed a good group of support just across the spectrum, right? And Blackrock, since I started there when it was less than 10,000 people, it was still relatively ran like a small business. So just by nature of that, I was able to connect with certain people as well. And it was just an awesome experience, man. Like I said, a lot of the networking, a lot of the opportunities, and take advantage of those opportunities. But at the same time, when you get those opportunities, crush it. Crush it. Like you gotta crush it, man. Because you just not go, like to your point earlier, never waste an opportunity, right? It's just like you just gotta crush those opportunities. So when I got them, I crushed them. And so I got promoted in 2 years on time, which was good. Some unfortunately didn't get promoted on time. But then I moved to a group. I was in analytics, and I moved to a sales team, and that was great. And really took on a good amount of leadership responsibility within the South. There was one guy in the South, and then myself, and we were in charge of putting together investment solutions or raising capital for our investment solutions from public and private institutions. And it was awesome. It was awesome to work on things. We brought in a $4 billion deal, and to see that published in Pensions and Investments, and you can read something in the media or read online, like, man, I worked on that, right? It's just like now you got something you can tell your managers, you can tell whoever, and it was like I said, it was my first corporate experience. Sad to have left them, but I was there for 6 years. And I learned so much, and I've got so many contacts from Blackrock that I'm continuing to keep in touch with. So I'm very, very fortunate of that. But now it's on to the next phase, man. So I'm excited to see what that brings.
Yeah, man. So it jumps us right into our future round before we close it out, man. And what is and I guess we can contextualize this NBA experience, but in your head, and I don't know if you're a big forecaster for the long term or really live the day to day or in the years, but what's next, man? I mean, okay, you came from Compton. We talked in depth about that journey, which was a journey to say the least. We talked about college experience. We talked briefly about your corporate career, but where do you go from here, man? Like, what's really your game plan right now?
Yeah, so I think the game plan right now is to get on an explicit path to being CEO of a global company.
I love it. All right, let's mark this time. Wednesday, August 9th, 2017 at 9:29 a.m. Remember this. Remember this moment, man, where you big. Like, yo, I'm telling you. Remember this. That's huge. Yep.
So, I mean, the way I see that happen is through consulting or general management, right? General management programs. A lot of these programs explicitly put you in a position for you to develop an understanding of strategy, organizational functioning of a business, but then also gives you a lot of that C-suite exposure so you can spend time better understanding what senior leaders think about. And I think at the end of the day, that's what I want to do. I think it's very important for people to kind of like know themselves. And this is why I value a lot of what you do, Greg, because it's being an entrepreneur, right? And I think a lot of people got to be honest with themselves. It's like, are you more of an entrepreneurial type, or are you more of like a corporate type, or entrepreneurial is a term that people use? And I feel like at this stage in my life, I'm much more of an entrepreneur, right? So I'm much more of that type. So for me, it's like, okay, let me get the skill set to get on that path. And what's interesting is that I look at my experiences so far. I got sales experience, I got analytics, I got all these different experiences, but I don't have any strategy experience. I don't have any management experience. And it's doing that homework and doing that analysis of kind of starting from the end, where do you want to end up, and then working backward to get that skill set. And so that's what I'm doing now. And I think Tuck at Dartmouth is going to be a phenomenal experience. The school is renowned for its network. It's renowned for its resourcing. There's a lot of different things I'm able to do there. So I'm actually in the process now of structuring out how my 2 years are going to look up there, just to make sure, as I mentioned earlier with Same Temple, going there with that structured approach. And so I'm looking forward to that. But that's the next step. That is the next step. That's the long-term goal, man. The long-term goal is to run a global company. That way I can have the most impact.
Yeah,
right.
Love that. And before we go to our culture change round, I do have one last question on this. Oh, two last questions. The first being, if you could go back 5 years, right, and
5 years,
and tell yourself one thing, what would you tell yourself, knowing what you know now?
Man, 5 years. Can I go back a little bit further, maybe to like 8 years?
Yep, go ahead. It's your show, bro.
So, one thing I wish I would have like considered coming out of high school, right? Coming out of high school, I wish I would have considered just Ivy League institutions as an undergrad, right? I just never really considered it. I thought about it, but I was like, there's no way I'm going to get in, right? It was just like, and I think it's just the idea of, I wish I would have had more confidence in myself earlier on. An environment where you have to struggle, you have to grind, so you're used to work, right? And it's just, everything we talk about today, it's just different forms of work, but you're used to work. You coming from a different place, and what you got to realize is that if you compare yourself to somebody who grew up with the dinner table conversations and you didn't, you grew up at a disadvantage to them, but you end up at the same place as them, what does that mean about you?
You about to freaking dominate. Once you get in there ain't no stopping you.
Exactly. And like, you've seen a whole different side of the world that these people haven't seen and can't relate to, which means that you're much more well-rounded. And that means that's an additional value add, right? So I wish I would have had more of that confidence in myself at 18 years old. I mean, I developed it over time, but it took a lot of work. But I feel like if I had more confidence in myself, I would be looking at life differently. Maybe I would have started a business right out of high school or out of college or something like that. I just wish I had more of that at that point in time, because then the world is even more of your oyster, right?
Yeah, nah, it's crazy. But I love that analogy, because I think, let's think about the Transformers, right? When the Transformers are like, seriously, you think about Transformers, and like when they are fighting, like there are 5 individuals fighting one guy, it's like a usually even battle. But when they all join together, right, have all these things, and they fighting one guy, they can't be stopped, right? So that's why I see what people, especially people of minorities or people of black descent, once they can, if you can put the corporate hustle with the street and marry it, there's no way you can't dominate their lane, because they only got one way. Like, so that's why you just gotta find a way to get into the door. And once you get in the door, it's game over. And they know that. That's why the education system is what it is. But I mean, it's a whole different conversation. They know that, because you give us the tools, you give us the same tools, There's no way. Like,
Yeah, just give me the tools and put me on the field.
That's
And,
it.
and why like Booby Miles said in Friday Night Lights, watch me spin, coach. Yeah. Watch me spin. Let Booby spin.
Man, I love it. But last question before we enter the rapid fire round, man. And I hate to always get morbid so fast, but when it's all said and done, man, how do you, Darryn Lee, want to be remembered?
Man, like, how do I want to be remembered?
Yeah.
I think there's a few different things, right? So I think there's some, as I've gotten older and been fleshing out a lot of my values, I think there's things that are very important. So for one, I want to be a positive role model to all people, especially for people that come from where I came from, right? For one. For two, I want to be remembered as a loving husband, loving father, if I'm blessed enough to be able to have kids, because as somebody that never grew up with a father, I want to ensure that my kids have an example of what a good parent or a good father at least looks like. So that's how I like to be remembered amongst my family. Change the lives of thousands. I just want to continue to help improving people from disadvantaged backgrounds, improving their experiences, connecting them with the right people. Like, that's what I want to continue doing, because think about it, man. To this day, only like 11% of first generation college students actually graduate on time or graduate at all. And it's like, we need to continue promoting support for that group of people. So that's big for me. I mentioned the family man piece, because as somebody, I just want to make sure I have a solid family foundation in place, because in my mind, if your home isn't right, there's no way your career is going to be right. There's no way your professional career is going to be right. So I think that's something important. And I think like the last thing too is that I want to make sure that the impact that I have is global. And I don't want it to be a lot of people don't realize that you don't have to do everything yourself. It's about getting a group of people together and supporting them and whatever impact they want to support. So a lot of things that you're doing with the podcast, sharing stories, telling your story, writing books, etc. Like, how do I support a lot of what Greg doing, or how do I support a lot of what Ben's doing, what a lot of our other people are doing? Because then if you become an ardent supporter of that and a champion of a lot of their work, then that's going to help them go out and impact even more people than you can even touch on a given day, right? So that's the thing, is that like this person Darryn Lee is out here supporting a lot of different people to broaden his impact as much as possible, the collective impact as much as possible. And he's known as a solid family man who cares about the family, of course, but at the same time, he wants to make a better life for everybody, including himself.
I love that, man. I mean, I think the whole theme of this podcast, I'm gonna go ahead and probably put this at it's gonna be somewhere in the title, is you're always one connection away.
Mm-hmm.
Like one connection led to another connection, but one connection withdraw from what you have done, you could be dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could, it just went. It's like I listen to your story. It sounds like, I mean, like if you ever wanted to like ghostwrite or collaborate on a project with someone that have like it kind of has an Other West Moore feel. Have you read that book?
No, I have not.
It's basically a guy that it dialogues a story of two kids from the same town, and one guy just got out the system, kind of similar, just exactly like yours, got out, and now he worked in the Obama administration. He wrote books, he travels and stuff, and the other person, unfortunately, did not. And it just dialogues their two different journeys throughout their pace, and that's what, and it's like it's always that one extra person. That's why I always tell people, regardless of your career status or whatever, if you have some words of advice you want to give somebody young, especially with the young, do it, because that one janitor, that one person that is a regular finance role, not big, to say, yo, man, hey, says to that intern that's looking at stuff they shouldn't be into online or taking extra lunch breaks, like, yo, dog, if you just adjust this, then yo, you can change your career. Like, don't think, because I mean, there's so many people. The teacher, to this day, she probably still teacher. They probably still making $30,000 a year, whatever. But she said, yo, go to that middle school. That one piece of advice changed everything, right? It started this whole thing, right? What if she would have been like that day? Nah, he good. I'm not gonna tell to him. He probably gonna listen anyways. What if she would have did that?
Right, or even Mr. Michaels in the 8th grade say, you know what, you should go to that high school. Because it's very easy for me to be like, nah, I'm gonna go to Poly or I'm gonna go to some other school. But he was like, nah, you should go to that school.
Man, I love this. Just love this, man. I love this, man. So as we wrap it up, man, which has been, it's crazy. I just think, God, I'm just getting better and better. And it's just like, yo, cause seriously, this is like one of, last interview I felt was one of the best interviews I ever had. This one, this one is if you have any posts, it's just, man, this is wow, man. So as we close it out, I got the rapid fire round where I ask a series of rapid fire questions, hopefully receive rapid fire answers, and we gonna get it right. Are you ready to rock?
Okay, man.
I can smell the eggs cooking, man. I can smell the eggs cooking. I'm thinking like, dang, I gotta drive to Greensboro. I ain't ate yet. I'm starving. He about to jump off the podcast, go eat, go build, go get in a plane to Cali. I'm about to go. I'm like, dang.
Oh, man.
So, all right. First question, man. What is the best piece of advice that you have never received?
Oh, man.
You had to switch it up on the thing, boy.
The best piece of advice that I've never received. I wish somebody would have told me earlier on to be more confident and to use my background as a strength and not as a crutch. I had to learn that on my own.
Wow, that's a ooh. Hold on. Let me write that down. Because I mean, I always think, y'all give me so much love, man. Because like as a speaker, I always think of like certain things. That's so real because I think that's what I've been able to be genius level at is I utilize every story, every situation to be pivots to other stuff. Like, and I think a lot of people, they may use like, I mean, of course, I mean, you know, homeless, all this other stuff. They use that as a crutch. I'm like, that's why I ain't. But I said, you shoot, I'm going to spin it on his head. There's always pivot points. And I think if you think of it like that, life becomes a lot, especially if you've been through, and this is not even race related. Just if you've been through a lot of things, life becomes a lot more different. If you say, oh, that's a strength. Like, that's good. That made me tougher. Even if you don't believe it, even if you think it, like, yo. Then you like, F yeah, you would have been in high school like, Harvard? Shoot, you know what I've seen? Harvard, I'm gonna go to Harvard myself and be like, yo, y'all gotta take me, dog. Y'all got to, like, what's up? Make a way. And I think that's one thing that's always made you stand out too, is for the most part, not 99%, but for the most part, when you said you were gonna do something, you found a way and you didn't find an excuse.
Yeah. That's the thing. Don't got enough excuses.
Yep. So if you could add one habit and take away one habit, what would they be?
So adding one habit, get better at consistently exercising. So I've been training Hapkido over the last year, and Hapkido, Korean form of martial arts, and that's good. But when I look at what business school is going to be, business school is supposed to, in my mind, a mental transformation, but also a physical transformation. And I'm in decent shape now, right? I'm in good shape, but I want to be in excellent shape. I want to be in just awesome health, right? Because the road ahead is going to get harder, right? So I just want to make sure I'm really up to the task, not just mentally, but physically. So that's one habit. The other habit, man, a lot of times I just have a lot of like times where I'm just like laying around watching TV. And don't even be watching anything that's worth anything, right? And it's just, I like to take away some of that. Right. Like, I listen to podcasts. I listen to a lot of different podcasts and things like that. But how do I really become more strategic around a lot of my day? Like, if I'm spending an hour, 2 hours watching random TV, what else could I be doing at that time that can still be enjoyable and fun, but be more productive towards my long-term goals, being a better boyfriend or a better partner or better son to my mother, or just better professional, right? So I really want to flesh that out a bit more.
I love that. And here's a pro tip for all my listeners out there. If you ever listen to an episode and I always ask this question, what habit would you take away? If you have a solution to that problem and you enjoy the episodes, you want to connect with people, it would probably behoove you when you connect to say, yo, I heard this. Have you thought about this? And add some type of value. I have a lot of people that when we do this podcast, hey, can you connect me with this, connect with that? I'm like, all right, but But it's like, yo, if you just listened and you could be solution to some problems or potential solution, they don't got to be hit,
Right.
but you can act like you thought, hey man, I listened to your interview, I loved it, man, and I know you
Right.
said that you want to do this. Have you thought about that? Then
Right.
shoot, I know you probably be like, even if you know you're busy, whatever, you might say, oh man, shoot, in a month, I got some time. Let's definitely connect or whatever. Rather than you be like,
Right.
yo, D, I heard your story, blah, blah, blah. How'd you do this? You gonna be like, yo, I'm in business school right now. I don't got no time for that, bro. But like, but at least, cause I know yourself, you'll probably schedule it out. But it's like, I see so many people that just want so much, but they don't give anything. And
Yeah,
the world ain't going, the world don't work like that.
You always got to give stuff. And I mean, to be quite honest, I built a lot of connections. And for the longest, they were just like, well, what do you need from me? I was like, nothing right now. Well, you know what I'm saying? Like, nothing. And then over years, I didn't need anything. But when I needed that one big thing, though, that's when they were just like, okay. Because I've given so much to them over the last 3 to 5 years. And then when I asked for one big thing, support this fundraiser, charity, whatever the case may be, it was like no questions asked. Can you introduce me to such and such? Oh yeah, no questions asked. You know what I mean? Like that's what you gotta realize. Don't always be a taker. You gotta give. It's all about reciprocity. That's what it's all about.
What is your favorite book and why?
My favorite book, man. So it's interesting. So my favorite book for the longest has been Crime and Punishment, right, by Fyodor Dostoevsky, Russian cat. And it's interesting because he explores the concept of Hegel Superman, and it's the idea that you're above everything in the world. Like nothing is above you. You're above everything. And it's an interesting concept because you see an exaggerated version of it where this guy, Svidrigailov, is going to extreme levels of taking that concept of Hegel Superman to extreme levels and is doing crazy different things. But I like it for that concept because I think that's an interesting concept, and because I thought it was very well written. And at that point in time in my life, and even to this day, I was always a big history buff. I've always been a history buff, and I was always fascinated with the intricacies of Russian history. So that's my favorite book.
Luckily, we have never heard that book on this podcast before. So I love it. New gems. Last two questions before our finale is: what is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear, it's interesting. The reason why, and I'll tie back into this, the reason why I love Kendrick Lamar so much is not just because he's from Compton, but he has, when you listen to a lot of his lyrics and a lot of his interviews, he and I have similar fears. So one of the fears he says is that they're actually like, man, you just bought this house outside of Compton, but it's small. Like, why don't you buy like a multi-million-dollar house as a rap star? You know what I mean? You need to be out here and do what all the rap stars do. And Kendrick said, I hear you, but he said, you know what? This whole journey still feels surreal. Mm-hmm. He's like, this whole journey feels surreal, and I feel like I'm gonna wake up next day, all my money gonna be gone. Mm-hmm. And that's an honest fear of mine too. And maybe it's just like the situations that we came from. But I resonated with that since he's from Compton as well. And I like, there's times where I feel like everything the journey that I'm on is surreal. And it's just like, man, what if I lose all of this and then I have to go back to Compton, or I'm not going to have the global impact I seek to have. So it's that failure. It's that not just failure where you learn from something and you can pick yourself back up, but it's like that supreme failure, right? It's just like that next level of failure. That's my biggest fear, to be quite frank.
Man, that's real, dog. And last question before we ask our customary culture change question: if you were the president of the United States, what is the first thing you would do?
If I were president of the United States, so the first thing I would do is that I would focus on revamping the entire education system in terms of how it's funded, right? I think the fact that property taxes make up a disproportionately large amount of school funding within local districts is insane, right? Because then clearly that means communities with high levels of home ownership tend to have the best resources and supplies. So therefore, people with low percentages of home ownership, i.e. the hood and the city, just tend to continue having poor issues.
I never knew that.
Yeah, and poor resourcing. So I think what's interesting about the education system in the United States is that there's very little altruism behind it, right? And I think that's understandable, right? This is a capitalistic nation, so I understand it. It's not a socialist nation, but at the same time, I think what's interesting is that how we approach education overall just needs to be revamped, whether it's from the funding issue, whether it's from why do we make it so hard for people to get educated here, but then they can't stay here, so they go back to India, China, whatever their country is to compete against us. You know what I mean? Like, we need to make all this stuff easy. Like, we need to have the notion of we want everybody to be educated, everybody to be literate, everybody to just be rock stars from an education perspective. And that's what Singapore did. And over the last 50 plus years with Singapore, I mean, they went from a struggling country to being a developed nation, and they're doing really well now. And everybody, most people there are college educated, or literate, or whatever the case may be. Right. So that's what I would do as president. I would focus on revamping the entire education infrastructure. And I know that'll probably take up the whole first term, and I'll probably lose a lot of political capital. But even if I was just term president, I would use all my political capital to do that.
Love that, man. That's awesome, man. So as the culture change agent, man, and everybody I bring on this show, everybody that's attended the tour, shout out to everybody that came out and showed love on the Minority Trailblazer tour. It was phenomenally successful, and I'm just honored and thankful for y'all present. So, but as a culture change agent, man, if you could change one thing about our society, most specifically our African American culture, what would it be and why?
Yeah, so what would I do to change the African American culture? I think it's the notion of, I think we need to stop glamorizing. We need to glamorize the non-athletes as much as athletes. And we need to support each other. We need to support each other in the fact that, look, you know what? Stop bullying kids that care about grades and that care about school. Just stop bullying them. And I think a lot of us, too, you even see this up throughout college, right? We even see this throughout college in terms of the type of people we gravitate towards when we're dating people, whatever the case may be. Tend to gravitate towards the Greeks or gravitate towards the athletes. And a lot of times you don't see a lot of people, or you see different people gravitating to people that don't have the Greek letters or don't have the athlete stamp, and they just want to focus on the books. And I think a lot of that is rooted in just the mentality that we were raised in as children. We glamorize the showy stuff, right? The stuff you see every Sunday or every other day. We glamorize that. We glamorize all of that stuff, but we don't glamorize the engineers, right? In that movie, Hidden Figures, right? I learned so much in that movie. And it's like, man, this woman was out here doing B stuff for NASA back in the day. None of us learned about her in our history books, right? Nobody of us talked about her growing up in the hood, right? Like, my first time knowing about that woman was watching Hidden Figures. Like, we need to do that. We need to be supporting those people. We need to be talking about them just as much as we talked about Kobe Bryant or LeBron James or Steph Curry, right? Like, that's what I would change about our community. Because then you didn't have an entire, like, let's support everybody and everything that they're doing. Media, entertainment, sports, business, law, not just focus on media, entertainment, and sports, right? Let's have some focus around everything, and then let's exercise group economics, right? Mm-hmm. Because then we have a focus on what's going to get us to a different level of intellect and what's going to make us money. Because let's be real, Asians do it, Jews do it, a lot of different groups do it. They practice group economics. They practice group support. They don't care if you're rich or you're poor, whatever. We're going to get this money together. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm going to help you develop, right? That's what we need to do more of that. So that's what I would change.
Yep. Let's get it, man. I love that. You chopped it. You hit it on the head. And guess what? That's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we need to do so we can be able to kind of shift that group dynamic. So I know we're not in the same lanes, but now as I continue to kind of broaden my width and my impact in this lane, as you continue to do so forth, now we have those connections. We have, you have a lot of colleagues. I do as well. Then hopefully we can, I would love to be a part of building, and they probably already have it out there, but for young millennials, I have my conference, but a summit of sorts where people that from different spaces, don't have to pay to play, but there's some thresholds you have to meet in order to be able to get there. Because Forbes legitimizes some people, but I'm like, y'all, we need to own summits that not like Black Enterprise. You got to pay $500 for a ticket to come, but more so it's like, yo, we come and we just build and say, okay, how can we all use our collective, like you said, interest to really start building? Side note, shame on the NBA players, bro. Maybe they do it, but shame on these guys, bro, because you think, let's just take it. And I know NBA players already heard it all the time, but if they're listening to this podcast, yo, you take the top 20 contracts, right? And if they hosted, say LeBron hosted his own summit, and they said, guys, we got a couple, like $10 billion right here. How can we legit change stuff? Instead of, let me partner with Nike and let's get these basketball courts. I get it. That's cool. But with your own diamond dollar, how can we just start shifting stuff? What would that hedge fund look like? Like, for real.
Right, exactly.
So that's why I'm not waiting on no athletes to do it. You ain't waiting on the athletes to do it. We got to do it ourselves because that is what it is, man. So I'm excited to kind of to showcase this is just the beginning of your journey, which has also been filled with so much stuff to do it. So before we close, man, please definitely, I never done this before, but I think I did it early in the first season, but shout out anybody that you would like. And then 2, let the audience know where they can find out more information about you and stay connected. And then we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah, and it's like for me, I just want to just shout out a lot of the people that's been supportive for me. So, of course, my mother, every female in my family has been extremely supportive for me. All right, I mentioned a couple other important people, Alex Rubacava, my Uncle Al, Jabari Magnus, so many people to count. I've just been so thankful for having as many mentors and sponsors as I've had to this point in time. And, of course, I want to shout out my girlfriend, Aisha Devonish, because she's been in my camp for about 4.5, 5 years right now, and has been very instrumental in my life. And if people want to find me, they can find me on LinkedIn, Darryn J. Lee, and I'll be more than happy to connect with folks.
Alrighty, so Minority Trailblazer Nation, you already know what to do, man. I am excited. This was, I called it a beginning. Legendary episode. Thank you again. So, Minority Trailblazer Nation, you already know what to do. Make sure you go cop your merch at minoritytrailblazer.com. Make sure you go register for your conference March 8th and 9th, 2018. That's a Friday and a Saturday at mtbconf.com. Make sure you use promo code MT, capital MT, podcast for your $50 off. And last but certainly not least, make sure you subscribe and leave a review. So, as always, I need you to do 2 things as I close out this thing. What is that, Mr. Hill? Change the freaking culture. Good night.